Hey, welcome back. It is Thursday yet again, and you're watching another episode of Dividing Truth with Lexi. I am Lexi Johnson. I am your host and facilitator during this this podcast. And Dividing Truth is a weekly podcast that is dedicated to sharing financial truths that are going to help women entrepreneurs and women professionals become financially free in uncertain times, right? And now, just because, I pretty much cater to women doesn't necessarily mean that men that you cannot listen because listen, anything that I share on here about money, how it works, anything like that, anyone can use it, right? But my mission really is to help women to become financially free. So today we're going to be talking about, excuse me as I get my little wires. I didn't know I had them out like that. Anyhow, today we're going to be talking about your money and your mentals. That's right, your money and your mental health, right? Because the two are closely related. Oftentimes in our society, we tend to kind of put things in separate little compartments or separate little boxes, right? So our finances are over here, relationships are over here, our mental health is over here, physical health is over here. But the truth of the matter is that that's just not the way life operates. Everything is interconnected, right? And when one area or one aspect of our life isn't doing very well, it can and will affect other areas of life. So today I thought I would take some time to talk with you all about that. So before we dig into our subject for today, I just want to share with you again that you're listening to Dividing Truth with Lexi, and you can catch this show live or the archives on www.radiowaveforyou.com. You can go there. You can subscribe to Radio Wave. You can actually check out a lot of the other radio uh, shows and other podcasts because there are many of them that are absolutely great for you to listen to and great for you to learn from, right? But I will also encourage you to subscribe, okay? So not only visit the website, but I want you to subscribe to the show. And when you subscribe to Dividing Truth, it takes care of two things. It subscribes you to Dividing Truth, the show individually, but it also subscribes you to Radio Wave, right? And in this way, you can get updates. You can get these episodes delivered right to your inbox. And as we continue to build, there's some things that are going to be coming down the pike, like Fan of the Month and some awards and things for that. But you've got to be a subscriber to be able to participate in those things, be able to win some things, right? And just get the inside scoop on what's going on with the show and who knows, maybe some other areas and aspects of my life as it relates to becoming financially free, right? So go ahead and do that. The website is going down at the bottom of the screen. Go ahead and subscribe to the show. So, all right, today we're going to be talking about your money and your mental health, your money and your mental health. And so if you see me looking away from the screen, it's not me being rude. Oftentimes I have notes and I just want to make sure that I touch on everything that I intended to touch on. And by the way, make sure that if you have questions or if you're watching this live and you want to comment, do so. I encourage you to do so, right? Drop comments, drop questions, whatever the case may be. I may not be able to answer live during the show, but I can definitely circle back, answer those questions, or I can even answer them at the beginning of the next episode, right, for the following week. So make sure that you're doing that. I want you to, really get as much as you can get out of our time together, right? Also, because this show is only so long, right? When I'm doing the show on my own, no guests, it's usually about 30 minutes. When I have a guest, we may go about 40, 45 minutes, sometimes even 50 minutes, just depending upon how, engaging the conversation is and all of that. But it only lasts for so long, right? But we can and we do continue the conversation in our Facebook group. And so I would love for you to join the Facebook group as well. Now, once again, if you subscribe, you will get an email that it also invites you to the Facebook group. But just in case you are not tempted to subscribe just yet, I am going to post the link for the Facebook, and there's a link there, or you can just simply search Truth with Lexi on Facebook, and you'll find that most people um, who something of some kind are suffering from some type of distress, right? And the majority of people having that talk to therapists and psychologists and things of that nature, of people that walk into the office. That is my 4-year-old. I'm in my home, people. So anything can happen, right? So most people, though they're coming, they're suffering from depression, anxiety, or many other things. Oftentimes, financial distress it plays a huge role in the depression, in the anxiety, in some of the other things that a person may present with when they show up for therapy, right? And in fact, studies show that individuals with depression and anxiety are 3 times more likely to be in debt, right? They are 3 times more likely to be in debt. And other studies have also found that there is a link between debt and suicide, right? So if you know me, if you've followed me for any period of time on social media, if you have had the opportunity to hear me speak, um, in at a conference or a workshop or whatever, you know that I am always talking about how being successful in the money game has much more to do with your mental health, your attitude and everything towards money than it is the actual skills. Do you need the actual skills and understanding how money works and understanding those concepts? Yes, you do. But understanding those concepts, even practicing them for a time, will not help if you don't have the proper mental health as it relates to money, if you don't have the proper attitude as it relates to money. So I wanted to take time to spend an episode talking about that, right? I wanted to take time to talk about that. So let's dig in. All right. So one of the first points that I wanted to talk about is that, when you are feeling like life is out of control, okay, and many of us have been there to some degree or another. When we feel like life is out of control, um, it is not uncommon that your finances are also out of control, right? Maybe things went out of control in another area and it bleeds over to your finances, or things have gotten out of control in your finances, and so it bleeds over. Personally, and I love comment. It was finances going out of control that led to other things: depression, anxiety, not even wanting to live anymore, right? And so that is definitely something, like, when you're feeling like you're out of control of your finances, you definitely want to take a step back and you want to acknowledge that and you want to address it, right? So I'm going to go through some points, and then after I go through these points, I'm going to share with you some things that you can do to help address these various issues, these various things that I'm going to bring up and talk about, right? When you have financial issues, the credit card bills are piling up. The any kind of bills, right, are piling up. And it could be that, a job loss launched you into that, board launched you into that, or some other um, traumatic experience may have launched you into that medical, because sometimes people have kind of medical thing that comes up when it's an accident or something that's going on in the body that you into stress. That was a habit. I can. So the bills would come in, and because I was feeling like, finances were out of control, life was out of control, or whatever, as the bills came in and piled up or whatever, they just stayed there. Like I just avoided them, right? And it's almost like you think that if I just don't pay any attention, like somehow it's going to all go away. But how many of you know that that is not the case, right? It does not go away. They just continue to pile up. And then when you are ready, um, to look at it, right, then it's overwhelming, right? It's very overwhelming. And so the more it piles up, it's almost like the more you avoid it and don't want to look at it, because you just know, like, it's this big. You ever open like a door, closet door or something like that, and like all the stuff just came tumbling down, or you open your freezer and just, for some reason things aren't put in there properly, and then they just come falling out. Like it's like that, right? I've sat down with people, as a financial coach. I've sat down with people who had avoided their money problems, and that, looking at it for the first time, and who knows how long, maybe it's even the first time ever in adult life for some people, um, it's a very overwhelming thing. And it can be very scary. It can be very, it's just, I understand sometimes why people hesitate, right, to take that first step to sit down with me, because part of that first step is just looking at everything and where it is, right? And that can be very scary. Believe me, I've gone through it myself, right? So, um, the thing there is like you have to take that step in spite of the fear. And I often talk about being courageous, and how you just have to put your foot forward in spite of the fear, because honestly, from my own experience, and though in the experience of those that I work with, once they push through that first piece of like, okay, let's just, get everything on the table, let's see, where we're at, let's see, once people do that, sure, it's like, okay, yeah, I've got stuff going on. But once they do that, what I'm able to do is to come back to them and say, okay, not only do we have all this here, but here is how we can address it, and I have a step-by-step plan for them, right? And so when you get that step-by-step plan, again, from my personal experience and the experience of those that I have worked with, there is such a relief, right? Because now it's not just all of this stuff in the closet that is falling out at me, and I don't know even where to start or what to do with it, right? What to throw away, what to keep, just whatever, right? But now I have a step-by-step plan that is going to help me to organize, that closet. And so that feeling, once you have that plan, once I have delivered that plan, to people that I work with, to my clients, just to that, um, watch that release, because you can see it physically, right? You can see it physically. You can see, the shoulders, just that whole release, that whole, you can see it physically in them, that this burden is lifted, because now there is a clear step by step, not complicated, right, plan, to overcome all of that, right? So we don't want to avoid things, right? We want to make sure that we address them, because here's what happens. A lot of times, and this is something else that I did in my journey, right? So a lot of times, because we're avoiding that closet of stuff, the one of the things that we'll tend to do is to find some type of band-aid, right? So we will go and do something out of desperation, just for some temporary relief. So what does that look like when we're talking about finances? Well, you might take out payday loans, okay, or just some other type of loan that you really don't have the capacity to pay back, we haven't really sat and thought through, the ramifications of taking out that loan. Like, we make these decisions that um, just digs a bigger hole, right? Maybe it's not a loan, but you just decide, heck, you're so tired of not being able to do for yourself or to do for your family. So then you just go splurge, right? And then what happens now? You're in more trouble. You got more bills and more things to just avoid, right? So we tend to get desperate because we want quick relief, but that quick relief is temporary, right? And so it's like at some point you have to sit down and face the stuff that's in that closet, right? To get true, permanent, lasting relief, or at least get started on true, permanent, lasting relief, right? Um, Having financial problems or going through financial stress can definitely lead to self-esteem issues, right? So again, I hate to keep saying, my personal experience, but, obviously with finances, you don't talk about other people's experiences, unless I have guests on the show and they will talk about their own experiences. So I have to share mine, and I'm, transparent to do that. I don't mind sharing that because I want to be helpful to someone else, right? And so when I was going through this crazy period of financial distress, like, it was a 3-year period, right? It really elongated due to choices that I made, right? Choices to avoid, to act rashly, and do things because I was desperate or whatever. So that elongated that period of time that I suffered, right, in financial distress. But the other thing is, it it aided my self-esteem, right, because I began to feel like a failure, began to feel like I would not ever be able to, accomplish anything or be successful in my finances again. Felt like I would and that spilled over to a lot of other things, right? So not only was I feeling like a failure just as an individual, but I was also feeling like a failure, as a mom, or a failure as a leader. It didn't matter what organization, whether it was my sorority or whether it's my church or whether it was the financial distress that I was going through. Again, like I said at the top of our discussion, that it just bleeds over into everything else, right? So because I was failing in that area, I felt like such a failure in many other areas of my life, right? And so as that prolongs, right, then you begin to have some low self-esteem, right? And so then I was, beginning to think like, well, I'm not worthy of having a financially successful life, right? Guilt and all these kinds of things. But again, then that self-esteem starts to suffer. So if you're out there and you're listening and you are understanding what I'm saying, like it's resonating with you, and you have been, you're in some financial distress and you haven't really addressed it, and you're getting to this point where it's bleeding into other areas of your life, you're starting to, your self-esteem is starting to suffer, your confidence is starting to suffer. You've been doing the whole avoiding thing. I'm going to plead with you now to um, to do something about it, right? And again, you don't necessarily have to know what exactly to do with the money, but to step out and to talk to someone about it. So feel free to reach out to me on social media. I'm at Purposeful Lexi. On any social media platform, you can inbox me. Join the Dividing Truth Facebook group. and reach out to me there. You can, again, get on the email list, reach out to me that way, purposefullexi@gmail.com, because that it's a serious thing. And you do not want to prolong that. You heard me say, like, it was like 3 years, right? And there have been people who have suffered even longer, um, just because of the things that I've already discussed, right? So if that's you, please don't allow yourself to go another day just sitting in that, right? Let's address it. Okay, and so another thing that financial distress will do is it will begin to affect your energy level, even. So I have always been a person that when I'm involved in something, I will put like 150%, right? And because I tend to do that, like a lot of people around me wouldn't even know that my energy level was down, right? Because my energy level down is still to other people like, whoa, that's a lot, right? But I personally knew that I was not functioning at the energy level that I was capable of functioning at. I knew that I was not functioning at um, the level of excellence that I was capable of functioning at, because I had become so consumed by my financial problems, right? And so again, it bleeds over into everything else. What Another thing that financial distress can do is to open up any unhealed wounds from childhood, or adolescence, or teen, or young adult, or whatever. And you might be thinking like, what? How does it do that? Well, if you struggled or experienced some struggle when you were growing up, right? Now you may be overcompensating for that. You may be spending more, way above your, limits or whatever, because you don't want to not have. You don't want to feel like you don't have, right? Or um, you could, because you could also, how do I want to put this? You could also want to put on more, right? Put this face on more, like you have things, right? If you didn't have things before, so now you're getting the elite cars. You're getting a house that you can't afford. You're taking out loans and things that you can't afford so that you can keep up, right? You have these things, okay, material things or whatever, that helps you to keep up this facade. But really what's going on is that you really don't have, right? You really don't have. And because you don't have, maybe you won't get attention, or um, people have gotten teased, growing up, because they didn't have certain things, right? Like if you didn't have the in pair of tennis shoes, but instead you were wearing some generic brand tennis shoes, or your clothes are always hand-me-down clothes, or those things have followed you throughout life, and it will play out even in your finances. So it's important. And when I work with my clients, this is something that we talk about. Now, I don't want to, go in and dig and rip up, and pull, pull all kinds of band-aids off, because I'm not a therapist in that way. But it is important to know that some of the things that you've gone through in your childhood, or as you were matriculating into adulthood, that they do have an effect on your attitude as far as money is concerned, right? So that's something that we've got to address as well. And then also, when you are going through financial distress, it's very tough for you to think very clearly almost about anything. Okay. Um, your children, your spouse, if you have a spouse, other family members, people who are around you all the time. you may not really think, or that that's happening, but they are being affected. Because think about, I mean, if your energy level is being affected, if you're not able to think clearly, you are avoiding things, your self-esteem is low, your moods are different. Maybe you have more of an attitude. Maybe you are just lethargic. Maybe you are sad a lot, right? Spending a lot of time in your room, all of those things. So it just it can affect a lot of things. And while you think other people may or may not be noticing it or not feeling it, people close to you probably likely notice it and are feeling it, right? So again, back to getting what I was saying about not being able to think clearly. um, it's hard. You may not even be able to make out a decent grocery list, or, organize things. Or, for me, I know there were times like I would used to be really good about people saying, hey, meet us here, or this appointment on Thursday at 3 o'clock, and this one is on Saturday at 2 o'clock, or whatever. And I used to be so great. Well, I am again now, but that time going through financial distress, like if I didn't write it down, I completely forgot it. And the reason why was because my mind was so consumed um, with the financial distress that I was going through that it was shutting off everything else, right? I was so All I could think about was the financial problem, that closet full of all of that stuff, and I could not think about anything else, right? So I want to talk now about what are some things that you can do to begin to have a healthier money mindset, because again, mental health is everything. The way you think about money, your attitude towards money, all of that is extremely important if you're going to be successful in your finances. So before we get into that, I just want to remind you, you're listening to Dividing Truth with Lexi, and Radio Wave. And you can go to radiowaveforyou.com. That's the number 4, Radio Wave 4, number 4, you, that's the letter U.com. And you can listen to the show live there. You can listen on our Radio Wave for You Facebook page. You can also join Dividing Truth Facebook group, or you can subscribe. I'm going to put the link down again for subscribing. So there's lots of ways that you can catch this show. We air every Thursday at noon Eastern Standard Time. And listen, if you are in a place where you're really wanting to improve in your finances, you're ready, to do that, you want to be listening to this show. If you are a woman, particularly if you're a woman professional, a woman entrepreneur, anyone can listen to this show. But particularly, the reason why I talk to women entrepreneurs and professionals is because whatever is going on in our personal lives bleeds over again into our professional, into our business lives. Okay. Again, we like to think that things are in their separate little boxes, but they aren't. Okay. So go ahead and subscribe. Once you use the link there that's going at the bottom of the page there. Once you subscribe, you're subscribed to Dividing Truth, and you're going to get Dividing Truth news and information, and the recordings of the podcast right to your email. But you're also will be subscribed to the Radio Wave station as well, because there's just so many great radio shows and other podcasts that you can be listening to. There's great music, and there's a variety, right? It's a variety of shows and stuff. So there's a little something for everybody, right? All right. So what I want to do now is I want to share with you about some things that you can do to help improve your money mindset, to help improve your mental health. And now I'm talking about these things as it relates to money, but these are things that you can do in other areas of your life as well if you're needing to, beef up those areas as well, right? So one of the things that I do, because I'm a visual person, and oftentimes, I either have to write things where I see them, or I have to do I have to have some type of visual trigger. And so one of the things that I want to show you is I had to learn how to stop worrying about money, how to stop worrying about, where the next meal was going to come from. I had to stop worrying about that. As you all know, if you follow me, you know that I am a woman of faith, and that God says in His Word that, that we're not to worry about the next day, right? If He takes care of the birds in the field, like the birds are never, you don't hear them, they're not out there worried about, are they going to get food the next day? No, they just go about their business. Next day comes, they go out, they get food, they go back to their nest. They need to bring food back to the babies or whatever they do. There's no, they don't have, this thing of like, oh my God, where's the next meal coming from? God just provides, but He does that for us as well. So I had to do something visual because I'm a visual. And so I made this, jar, and this really was just a jar of fruit. Okay, so it wasn't like I went out and bought a jar. It was a jar that I already had. Once the fruit was finished, I cleaned out the jar. But this is my I Trust God jar. Now, I don't know that you guys can see the writing on it. I doubt it. Let's try a little bit. There you go. I trust God. So anytime I have any worries, when I feel like worry is creeping up on me about a particular thing, as it relates to money, something that maybe needs to be taken care of or whatever the case may be, I put it in this jar. Okay. In this jar, I use it not only for money, but just period, right? When I'm worrying about things. But when I started, it was about money because that was the area that was, the distress in that area was causing distress in all other areas of my life, right? So basically what I did, or what I do, and I'll show you, is that anything that I'm concerned about, I just write it on a strip of paper, right? And then I stick it in the jar. Okay, it's my I Trust God jar. So I write it down, I stick it in the jar. Write it down, I stick it in the jar. And then I close the jar, and then it's a clear jar, but it also says I trust God because why? It is a visual reminder. When I begin to start worrying about acting again, like this thing is sitting there and it's a prominent space in my home. It's where I'm typically, sitting and, doing work or whatever, that when I look up, I can see it. And it just reminds me, it's not my job to worry about it. It's not my job to figure out how. It's just my job to listen for God and His instructions and follow them, right? And I'm going to tell you that everything that I've put in this jar for years now, anything that I've put in here, God has taken care of, right? But me putting it in the jar, putting the top on it, and then just setting it there just says, okay, that's not my issue anymore. This is God's issue. I don't need to be worried about it, right? So maybe you need to find some type of visual trigger that will help you, okay? Maybe it's not the I Trust God jar. Maybe it's something else. Maybe it is, I've also used like a money tree before. And whatever works for you. I've also, I also have rocks just that you can get from Dollar Tree, right? Those decorative rocks, little rocks. And I just put, words on them, success, whatever, just whatever, that will help you because, and these visuals that just help me to stay in the right frame of mind, right? Okay, the other thing that I have done, and there's a lot of things that I do, but I'm only going to share a few with you, just to give you an idea. But the another thing that I have done, and you guys are not going to be able to see this as well, but this book that I'm showing you all, this is my planner. Okay, I ordered these. They're 90-day planner. Okay, Think and Ink is what it says. It's a 90-day planner. It says I'm doing my work. Day to day, it's in here. But on the cover, on the covers of these, the back cover and the front cover, both covers, right? I have things that I've written, like my goals. I keep them in here, and when I get a new 90-day plan, I write, the goals over. Unless I've achieved something, then obviously I write a new goal, right? But millionaire by 50, right? It's one of my goals. But I put it there because sometimes, working and things like that, as business owners, things aren't always peachy keen, right? There's ups and downs and all of that. And so the goals are in here so that I'm reminded every day of why I'm doing what I'm doing, right? Now, this particular planner that I have has a morning mental workout in it, right? And so you may want to find something that has that. You can find things that have, affirmations specific to money. In fact, you can just Google money affirmations and they'll come up. So you may not even need to go out and get a planner that has it in it, especially maybe if you're not able to afford one at the time. And you can write out affirmations in a notebook and have them there. Okay, so don't make it complicated and don't make it like you got to go out and get a whole bunch of fancy stuff, right? As you progress, you can do that. But again, these are just visual things. These are things that I have to help improve my money mindset. Why? One of the things that you want to do is reprogram your subconscious because the things that we've gone through as a child and events that happen throughout our lives and all of that, the subconscious will replay and replay and replay and replay, which is why we often feel like, we're in this circular thing because our subconscious is replaying that. And because our subconscious is replaying it, it's the activity that we continue to attract, right? 3-year period that I went through like some crazy financial distress. And it was because my subconscious kept replaying things. I kept attracting the same type of situations, right? I kept doing the same thing. Like I would go and get a payday loan, right? No, and like it didn't work the last time you did it, right? But then you go and do it again, right? Because you have not, because your mind shuts down. So it doesn't create, new ways in healthier ways. It just keeps doing, you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. So it's important that you have these visual things and affirmations. And one last thing that I want to share you, because there's tons that I can share about improving your money mindset. But again, you can Google some things, just Google improving your money mindset and check things out, right? And uh, a list of things come up, and just try some different things to see things that helps me and has helped me improving finances. Really is reading books about money. Now I'm an avid reader. I love to read anyway, right? So one of the things that I have adopted, particularly in the last couple of years. I've always been a reader, but in the last couple of years, I just made it intentional that I was going to make sure that I read a book about money um, every week. Okay, so they can be thin books, they can be thick books, they can be a book I've read before or whatever, but every week. Okay, if I'm reading a new Christian fiction book or some other book or whatever, because I read at least 2 books a week. And I know if you're not a reader, that's like, what? That's a lot. So I'm not asking you to do that. But what I am saying is you want to begin reading on money. Okay. You want to begin reading, like this book is that I'm reading this week. This is the second time I'm going through this book. It's called Powernomics, the National Plan to Empower Black America. So that's my money read for the thing. But by reading money books and articles on money and things like that, it begins to help you again change your money mindset. It begins to help you right about money. You are reprogramming your subconscious, right? And so as you are reprogramming your subconscious, what happens? Well, then that trickles over into your behaviors, right? And if your behaviors change for the better, right, then you're going to be in a better position sooner or later, right? But it all starts right here. So that's all that I wanted to share with you all today. I hope that this has been very helpful for you. I even went 40 minutes today. Normally I just go 30 when I'm by myself, but I hope that this has been very helpful. And I would love, love, love to hear, your comments, your questions. Are there some things that you're doing? I would love for you to share that, because maybe other people are, watching, listening, looking at those comments as well, looking for ideas. And so if there's something that you're doing that I didn't mention, share it, right? Because it can help someone else, right? So thank you for tuning in today. You've been listening to Dividing Truth with Lexi here on Radio Wave. And you can catch Radio Wave on radiowaveforyou.com. That's the number 4 and the letter U, radiowaveforyou.com. You can subscribe to Dividing Truth by using that link there at the bottom. When you subscribe, you will you can get these episodes right to your email, right? If you're gonna miss it, don't worry, it'll come right to your email. Also, as we progress, because our show is new this year, as we progress, we're going to be having Fan of the Month and all of this great stuff that you want to have the inside scoop in. So do make sure that you subscribe, and we'll see you next Thursday at 12 noon Eastern Standard Time for our next episode of Dividing Truth with Lexi. You guys have a great one. Peace.
Audio Jungle.